Are you wondering how to break the stigma around mental health issues and the impact that it's having on our African American and other disenfranchised communities? If you are, join us, your hosts, MERENCIA Henson, Cresheia Lee, and Walanda Johnson on our Mindful Moments mental health radio show every second and fourth Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, as we dive into a mindful dialogue to empower, inform, and bring awareness to the positive impact of mental health wellness.
Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. We are so thankful that we are here to continue to empower, to continue to educate everyone about mental health, as well as to, just enlighten others and to gather resources to help each other during this time. My name is Momentmerencia Henson. I'm an associate clinical social worker here in San Diego. I work with children, adolescents, and adults that have persistent and pervasive mental health disorders, as well as intellectual disabilities.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cresheia Lee. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in San Diego. I work at one of the local detention facilities for men. And what I do is assess for suicide ideation, making sure that while they are housed in the facility, that they're safe from themselves as well as others.
And I am Walanda Johnson. I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I work in private practice providing teletherapy for California residents who are dealing with anxieties, depressions, relationship issues, women issues, and life transitions.
All righty.
And for this evening, we'll be talking and we'll be educating and just having a great dialogue around anxiety and depression, and more narrowing that down to parents that are dealing with their own mental health issues, just to educate others of, we're still in COVID, parents are still trying to manage, their children's school schedule and trying to manage their own mental health. And it's just so important for the parent to really be aware of their own challenges mentally so that they can be the best parents for their children. So let's dive in.
So before we get started, Marissa, you were talking about just doing a personal check-in. I think that's pretty cool. Plus at work, it's really prevalent about how people are dealing with stress. You know what I mean? Where I work, you have the sworn staff who work really long hours, as well as our nurses.
Okay.
And just having conversations about family, ourselves. People are sharing things about how their children are going through challenges, and that creates challenges for themselves because they're trying to figure out how to manage their children when they're actually trying to figure out how to manage themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Walanda, how have you been?
I've been fine. I recently just met with a new client, and she was sharing her struggles with COVID, and she's not necessarily a parent, but struggling with some depression things, not necessarily indirectly related to COVID, but kind of indirectly related to COVID, and not feeling safe in her home because other people in her home aren't being safe. And so just having to wrestle with that and struggle with the anxieties of that, and having to isolate herself in her own home, and that in and of itself can be depressive, especially now because we can't conjugate or be around people like we used to be. So it's even more so for her, even in her own home, which I can't even imagine.
Me either. Well, that's a really tough one, when people in your own home are just, husband and wives, or just roommates, and what happens, a grown person can't tell another grown person what to do.
Yeah.
You just can't do that. You just hope and pray that they're being safe, whatever safe is. And, when you see somebody maneuvering through the world differently than how you do it, and then you have to interact with them,
And that loss of control, right? Which causes the anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't control other people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Well, I
Wow.
know for me, ladies, maybe not on a personal note, like I've always like tried to do my best managing my own anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Never battled with depression, but more along the lines of anxiety. And I think sometimes in life, especially during COVID, you could be so wrapped around like being a mom, right? Like working and all the other hats that we wear that recently I really had to step outside and really just evaluate my own mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've noticed that like subconsciously my anxiety was affecting different areas of my life. And
Mm-hmm.
we're going to share it. It's so important that we really just do a check-in with ourselves, right? Like mentally,
Absolutely.
emotionally, when it comes to relationships, as being a parent. And it's really important because the way that we manage our mental health or the ways that we don't manage it, it really spills over in relationships. You know what I mean? Whether
Mm-hmm.
it's consciously or subconsciously. So I'm really excited about this episode because we're really going to be honing in on what are the signs and symptoms of anxiety and depression? Like
Yeah.
what are the areas that we can really hone in and say, you know what, I did notice when I was getting irritable, or I was noticing when I was getting agitated. And then that's when you really do some more self-work. Okay, let me step back, let me do more self-care, let me be more communicative to my
Mm-hmm.
spouse or whoever, just to say, you know what, right now I need some time for myself so that I can be the best wife, so I can be the best mother, so I can be the best coworker. And it's just so important because sometimes when we're always busy, 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 it's like, oh yeah, let me work on me. It's so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be really good to point out to read the different signs and stuff. Sometimes we just call things depression. You know what I mean? Or this person might be depressed, what have
Yeah.
you. And a lot of things of what we do on a regular basis. I mean, everyone goes through a period of when they're not happy or they're feeling sluggish or what have you.
Right.
But is that depression or is
Yeah.
that based on circumstances or what's the difference?
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be really good to kind of flush that out.
Yeah, so if we could just dive in on that. I know, as we're all clinicians and focusing right now like on anxiety and depression, some of the signs of anxiety is having irrational thoughts, right? So it's the difficulties of understanding what's rational and what's irrational.
Mm-hmm.
Another sign of anxiety, even physically, it can be, when you're feeling anxious about a situation or you're feeling anxious, you feel out of control, or like you
Mm-hmm.
can't manage whatever's going on. That can affect your anxiety. You're feeling more fearful, you're feeling anxious. You may feel as though if you don't control something, then you're going to go down on a spiral whirlwind of not really using your coping skills. So another symptom of anxiety also is, having panic attacks, right? So shortness of breath, elevated heart rate. Maybe when you're feeling anxious, you have sweaty palms. You feel like something's going to happen to you mentally because you're not really trying to focus on what's really present and what's really there. And so it's really important when it comes to anxiety that you really manage your thoughts and really honing in on, okay, is this one of my fears or is this really reality of what's going on in front of me? And even sometimes just writing down, okay, you know what, this is what my fear is, but this doesn't equal what's really in front of me that's stressing me out. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Going to depression from the DSM is when someone is feeling
What is it? Wait,
hopeless.
what's the DSM? Explain to our listeners, because we know this language.
Yeah.
They
No,
don't
no,
know this
good.
language.
So the DSM is basically the Bible, right, to therapists. That's what we go to, the diagnostic manual, and that shows us what are the criteria to diagnose somebody with a disorder, right? Because you have to have a criteria. We can't just say, oh, you've been sad for a couple of weeks, let me just give you this label, right?
Mm-hmm.
It gives us a frame of reference of what are your signs, what are the symptoms? How long have you had these symptoms? That's the key thing when it comes to diagnosing an individual is the duration of how long you've been feeling this way.
Mm-hmm.
Another key point when it comes to diagnosing an individual, whether it's anxiety or depression or any other disorder is how it's affecting you in different areas of your life, right? So it has to be affecting you through socially, through your work, in different relationships, the ability to actually get up and function and to do your day-to-day job. So if there's anything in your day-to-day that where you cannot get out of bed to go to work, you can't get up to actually be a parent, to get things done. And if it's affecting you again in those specific areas of your life, on top of the sinus symptoms, on top of the duration, then we can really hone in and see if it's really depression or to see if it's something else. Does anybody want to add into that?
No, I mean, I think that's the general sense of what depression is. I mean, there's some other pieces that go along with that as far as like with women, you know, there's types of depression, but in general, you explained it pretty well.
Yeah, and some of the other depressions is major depressive disorder, clinical depression, as well as a serious mood disorder. And like we all know, anxiety and depression goes hand in hand. For most individuals that are diagnosed with anxiety, they're also diagnosed with depression as well. Another key thing that I wanted to share regarding depression is those who suffer from depression experience persistent, that's a key thing, persistent, which means ongoing feelings of sadness, ongoing feelings of hopelessness, ongoing feelings of loss of interest, of activities, past things that they once enjoyed. So yeah, sometimes we may get sad, right? Sometimes we may be down and out. But a couple of hours, maybe a couple of days, even a week, you know what? I was just in a mood. I talked to my best friend. You know, I did some coping skills. I'm feeling good, right? But this, what they're talking about in the DSM is really honing in again of the duration. How long have you been feeling this way? How has this disorder of depression affecting you in other ways of your life that you used to do that you cannot do anymore? Another thing I wanted to share was individuals can present with the physical symptom, like I shared before, such as chronic pain or digestive system. And this is really key too, even, and I know that, you know, in a couple of episodes, we'll be talking more about children, but if you have children where they're nervous, they're scared, and they have tummy aches a lot, that's actually a symptom of them having anxiety as well as depression sometimes, of having those stomach aches and the lack of eating.
Yeah, we have that too as adults, especially like in Asian communities. A lot of Asian communities, since we're talking about Black, brown people of color, the symptoms they'll describe more so somatic symptoms, rather somatic meaning physical symptoms that come up instead of I have anxiety, like, oh, my head hurts, my stomach hurts. And even for me, like, I feel anxiety. Now, I don't have anxiety, but I feel my anxiety in my stomach.
Wow.
So being mindful of those, and if you're persistently feeling that, and you go to the doctor, you get it checked out, and they're like, everything's good, there might be something else going on.
And then lastly, it says the individuals must be experiencing 5 or more of symptoms, like we shared, during the same 2-week period, and at least one of the symptoms should be either depressed mood or a loss of interest or pleasure. And I know, there's several parents that are dealing with this because they're at home with their kids all day. They're trying to manage their own stresses, whether they're married or a single parent. And these signs and symptoms can definitely be an issue because of a life altering, situation and lifestyle.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's situational depression, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That even affects, even a move, a big move, or a loss of somebody, again, a change of a lifestyle. So those type of life situations can definitely affect the way that you're managing your emotions. Sorry, ladies.
Absolutely.
I was thinking as we were speaking, a lot of times as adults, we are experiencing many of these things, but we are so accustomed to moving forward and making things happen while we feel them that we don't even label them. Like, we don't even know that we are depressed. We just know that we are chronically fatigued, don't have an appetite, don't
not sleeping,
not sleeping. You know what I mean? Gaining weight. Just so many things that, because it's a lot of overlapping, you know what I mean? But like Merencia was saying, it's the persistence, you know what I mean? It's the persistence. And then also knowing at what point do you need to seek outside help or conversation to actually kind of say, like, this is more than just you being tired or what have you.
Right.
These are some things that you need to look out for,
Right.
Yeah.
I know clinically we were taught in talking about depression, if you're experiencing these symptoms, we'd like to do rule outs, which means like this could be this, but I'm going to check and make sure, you get that with your medical doctor as well. And we always, or not always, but most often your clinician will say, how about you go to the doctor, get a physical, see if there's a thyroid issue or something else going on.
Right.
And like Mercy was saying, like, people talk about somatic symptoms, and you have these symptoms and you get them checked out with your medical doctor, because you want to rule out everything that's going on. But I'm glad you mentioned, like, we like to power through, especially in the Black community. We're just like, we got it. We'll be all right.
Yeah.
We're going to just power through. And that's stuffing. Like, those emotions, they either got to come out. They just got to come out. Like, there's no other option, because it's going to physically manifest in the stomach aches, in ulcers, in other chronic illnesses, because you're not you're not treating those emotions, you're not acknowledging them, you're not getting help for them. So yeah, it's super, super, super important.
And I just have an example of somatic issues. Once I worked with a young lady, she had a young child, excuse me, and she had broken out, especially on her face, with, like, she was Caucasian female, red rashes, to the point where she didn't want to go out in public because she would get so many stares and things like that. She said she went to a doctor, she got second opinion, she got all types of tests done. And they could not find anything wrong with her. But clearly there's something wrong with her, because she didn't always have rashes, rash over her face and body. And so after they ruled out everything, physical, they said, maybe it's something else. And they suggested that she look into therapy, which is something that she had never thought about doing. Fast forward ahead, her father had recently passed, and she had a disrupted relationship with her father, and she was carrying around a lot of anger stuff about her father. And as she began to talk about it, and wrote letters to him, of course he's not here, literally it went away. It went away. And like I said, it was nothing physiological that the doctors could come up with. She wasn't allergic to anything in particular. This is how it manifested. Her stress and depression and anxiety manifested itself, was through this rash on her body.
Yeah.
And like we shared before in other episodes, ladies, is like our physical health, mental health, and emotional health is so interconnected. And it's like, what I used to share with clients, and I tend to use the same example, but it's like our body is a volcano. If you have layers and layers and layers of stress and trauma and unresolved issues, that now you have anxiety disorder, now you have depression, like you said, it's going to come out in one way or another, right? And it's like, if you have all those thick layers of lava, what happens when that lava gets really, really hot? It explodes. And that's our body exploding. It's like, if you're not using the right coping skills, if you don't have the right medication, if you don't have the support system, it's going to come out and it's going to affect their spouse. It's going to affect your children. And it's going to come out in negative ways when, it could have been handled sooner, right? Or in a way to get it resolved. And it's just so important, because again, like we shared before, that's why during COVID, these spouses are at home and they're really staring at each other like, oh, dang, like,
why did I marry you again?
Like, you're usually home, you're usually out working, and now I'm a parent. And, if you're not used to be a parent, or you don't like your kid, and dang, I wish I didn't have a kid, and now you're facing them, and you never resolved your own, depression or other mental health issues. Now it's going to come out through violence, or mental emotional abuse, when again, it's so important, especially as an adult, to check yourself, you know, and don't allow your pride and your ego to get in the way of your healing, which can really benefit your family as a whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I know, did you get to get through all of your symptoms, Merencia?
I did.
I feel like we started talking mid symptom.
No, you did. A couple of the other symptoms that I can share just for, you know, our viewers, just to be more enlightened, and even you can be more aware, like, you know, have I ever felt this way? Or, you know, maybe I have a colleague or a family member that is experiencing depression, just for educational wise. So some of the other symptoms are stressed mood most of the day, nearly a day, not having the motivation, not having the physical or mental capacity to do the task again like we used to do, as well as not having the mental or even physical capacity to get up and go to work, again, attend to their family. Marked diminished interest, again, other pleasures and all, or almost activities of the day, nearly every day. Another one is significant weight loss. So again, having that physical symptom of not wanting to eat, or it could be weight gain, right? Like we know people that are emotional eaters. You know, they were emotional eaters as a child, and they learned, okay, well, you know, when I feel this way, I'm going to eat. You know, they never really taught how to deal with their emotions, but by eating. So, you know, that's when you'll see the weight gain, as well as, like you shared, you know, that fatigue or loss of energy, feelings of worthlessness, excessive or inappropriate guilt nearly every day. And lastly, diminished ability to think or concentrate, or indecisive nearly every day. So again, it's just that the consistency and the persistence of having that type of mind, like, you know what, there's nothing that you can say, you could do for me to get off this bed, and they're stuck, right? Where it's hard to get out of that headspace mood to really do what they used to love.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that indecisiveness, because I think people really miss that one. Like you just like that, like you said, that mental space, like I can't even make a decision, which is so important when you're parenting. Like you have so many decisions that you have to make for the care of your child. And if you can't function enough in your headspace to be able to be present and to be able to make those decisions, like you were saying, like it just gets overwhelming to the point where you are going to respond in a way that could be very violent or aggressive, because you're just you can't think straight. And then your child is being a child, doing what children do, and your tolerance is like
and who would have thought during this time that, on top of all that we're discussing, that parents and caregivers would have to become teachers? For many
and in
people,
some cases doctors. I mean, you know, you're not taking your child to the hospital or
for more than one. Absolutely.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And on top of all of this, you got to figure out a way to make sure that they are tapped into social distancing and learning and keeping their video on, and all that. And as I think about this, I think about my sister. I don't think she'll mind me sharing. She has a 5 and 10-year-old. And you know, and she works full time. I mean, more than full time, actually, because she's working more than 40 hours a week.
Wow.
And so she has a 5 and 10-year-old. So she launched the 5-year-old in kinder, you know, and then she has a 10-year-old, and he can pretty much handle his stuff. But the 5-year-old, look, this whole school thing is new to him. It's very new to him. So he would have been launching kinder. And so, you know, he knows how to, you know, utilize the computer and stuff. But if he wants
video games,
if he wants a snack, if he wants a snack, you know, he'll turn off the video. And I was just like, what are you doing? They have to say, I want a snack. Or if he doesn't like what the kids are singing, you know, he'll mute, you know, and she's trying to handle business and handle him. And we can laugh at it after the fact, but she's trying to balance everything, you know, tuned in. And the stuff she shares with me, we laugh, but it's challenging.
It's real,
you know, for her and you know, and her husband, as well as for his little self. So
And that's his intro to learning, right?
Intro, right?
Like this is the
Wow.
first way that he learns how to learn in a school setting. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes,
So when he actually goes to school, like he
it's
has
gonna
to
be,
relearn
it's gonna be
how to be in a school.
absolutely.
Crazy.
Yeah, and he's missing the interaction, he's
Right.
a kid, he wants to play, he needs some fresh air, he needs to move, so yeah.
And I think just going back to what we were just saying earlier, ladies, I think it's so important that as parents, we really just try to learn how to push through it. Because I mean, before COVID, we know parents where they just put video games in front of their kid, right? Or TV in front of a cell phone. It's like, okay, that's your babysitter. Like, I don't feel like going anywhere.
Yeah.
So there you go. And then you add COVID. And it's like, you really have to, and even with me, with my little one, even though she's 2, I'm like, I'm raising a little girl that's going to be an adult woman, who's going to be a mother one day, who's going to be a wife one day. And the way that I manage my anxiety in my life structure, she's watching, right? She's watching how I'm managing my emotions and how I'm managing life and how, I'm even trying to learn how to be patient as a mother. So it's like, during COVID, especially when you have a middle school or a high school or even elementary, it's so important that you push through. Even if you don't feel like going outside, go outside with your kid. If you feel like, I'm not trying to play all day, at least have a good, healthy schedule where you're getting outside the house, you're getting that fresh air, you're getting that sunshine, that vitamin D, because that helps you in your mental state. But, I think it's very important that as parents, we're very cognizant of what we do for ourselves, because we're literally teaching our children how to deal with their own emotions.
So factual. Yes. Facts.
Yeah. So are we going into like tips of how to help manage anxiety and stress?
Let's do that.
Absolutely. That's a good
to go off of.
And I just want to start by saying that I look at things as baby steps. Like we don't, you don't have to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
I celebrate the little small things, you know what I mean? So as much as you can, of course, you can start off by telling yourself, try to get a good night's sleep. And maybe this is not 7 days a week, but maybe there's one day a week, this one particular day that you're going to go to bed at what you consider a decent time. And you're not going to roll over and check your phone. For me, I need white noise. I need a filter. So I generally have YouTube running all night with the sound of rain, or what have you. And that helps me feel dry because I'm a really light sleeper. And so little tiny things, keep a routine, whatever that might be. It may not be routine throughout the day, but maybe, we're going to sit down and have dinner together. Or, I'm going to have this cup of tea before I turn in for the night, whatever, figure out some type of routine. Anything ladies want to jump in and share? There's so many different things, but
there are. Go ahead, Merencia.
One thing I want to elaborate on, which I share with my clients on the daily, is a healthy sleep hygiene and what that looks like. So like you said, Leticia, and how I describe it to my clients is our brain is a machine. So if before you go to bed, you have your, let's just say you watched a violent movie, or, you were on the phone all night, or you have a lot of screen time, and you lay down, that doesn't mean that your brain is shut down from the day. You know what I mean? A lot of times my clients are like, yeah, I'm laying there and I cannot go to sleep.
Right.
And then, or they're waking up feeling unrested. So what I share with them is, before you actually lay down, like you said, Lucretia, have a sleep regimen, whether it's taking a nice nap or reading, put that phone down, or if you need to watch a movie, let it be something that's going to be fulfilling to your heart, right? It's going to give you joy. It's going to give you some type of good pleasure, be feeling relaxed, so that by the time you do lay down, your machine, your brain is slightly in that
slowing down,
slowing down before you actually lay down to go to sleep. Because again, like you said, Lucretia, if you're already on hyper mode because you're already feeling anxious and you haven't used any really healthy tools to really manage that, and you're feeling depressed, your brain is catching on fire, like in the sense of a
Mhm.
happens when a machine is overworked. It gets
Mhm.
hot. It can't work properly. It's catching on fire. And that's how your brain is if you're not using those proper steps before to really rest your brain before you actually fall asleep. So like you said, Lucretia, it's so
Absolutely.
important to relax before you go to bed. So it's
Yeah.
vital.
And I
I
can't
want to
say
add
much-
to. Oh,
No, go ahead, Walanda. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add yoga to that because people don't really think about that. A good stretch can really go a long way as far as relaxing your
Mhm.
actual physical body.
Right. Do
Meditation.
you do it
I
often?
do that
Do you do it
often.
often, Walanda? Yoga?
I don't do it as often as I need to
Mhm.
or as I want to, but when I need to have a really good stretch, I will get it in. Because your body, you can feel when your body's tense, like your shoulders are always up here,
Yeah.
like your
You're
tightness.
walking like this.
Yeah, when you have all that
Yeah.
tightness, that's stress. Like that is
Mhm.
stress, and so getting that worked out and doing some good yoga can help.
And I would agree with you. The times when I have taken yoga classes, look, I don't know if it's
Mhm.
psychological or not. I believe it's more than
Psychosomatic.
psychological. I'm
Yeah,
telling
yeah,
you,
yeah.
I rest extremely well that evening,
Mhm.
as though I've been doing this really rigorous workout. I
Mhm.
mean, it is
Mhm.
real. And so, everyone don't have the time or the money or what have you to go to a yoga class. That's fine.
Mhm. Online.
YouTube it all day and
Free.
all night for free. I'm
Uh,
telling you. And and I give myself permission to not be able to get into those moves and stay there very long,
Mhm.
because as you continue to do it, you will progressively get better at it, and it's
Mhm.
absolutely okay.
Yeah. Even
Absolutely.
meditation, I do that with my clients before we end our session. And it's so soothing. I mean, even for me, because you get in that little tone of voice and you really calm down, and
Mhm.
definitely meditation, you can get those online as well. And another key thing that you were saying, Lucretia, about like drinking tea and just doing things for yourself, I think even communication is so key, just venting and letting it out.
Mm.
Whether it's talking to your spouse, a best friend, praying, journaling, just again, getting those stressors out can really help your mind when you are feeling anxious and you're having those ruminating thoughts at night that is keeping you up and you can't go to sleep. That the meditation really helps, lowering that loud noise of those ruminating thoughts that you can't really shut down.
Right.
Mhm.
And I just want to say, be mindful to celebrate small things. I'm
Yes.
telling you,
Yes.
I was already,
Yes.
even before the pandemic hit, I was already just working on being very intentional about things or mindful about things. But like, look, I work in a place where the elevators are always broken. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And so we're trying to get to different floors, and it's a long wait. So if I walk into work and I approach the elevator and it happens to open up, I'm like, yes. I mean, literally, it sounds so silly, but it's like I'm really, I'm acknowledging, like, look,
Mhm.
it might be 8 other times today that this elevator is not going to be open, but this particular time,
Mhm.
it opened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just catching 3 green lights as I'm driving my car. I think you really have to be mindful of those
Yeah.
little tiny things, because we really, many of us have so much to not be okay with. A
Absolutely.
lot of people spend a lot of loss. You know what I mean? A lot of
Mhm.
uncertainty, sickness. It's a lot of things going on that we can put into the negative bag.
Yeah.
And so we really, can't afford to let positive things or even neutral things pass without just personal acknowledgement of them.
Yeah. I'm hearing gratitude. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Absolutely.
Mercy. We need to get out of my head.
Absolutely.
Literally, you said it
The
the same.
second time.
Yep. Absolutely.
You go first, Walanda.
No, we were saying the same thing. So go ahead.
What I tell myself and what I tell my clients is that, like, I love sticky pads. Like, I'll put affirmations on my sticky pads. I'll put
Mhm.
Bible verses. I'll put things that I need to do to work on myself. I put it in my closet mirror, in the bathroom, like anywhere I am, like the most, like whatever area of the house I'm at, I the most I put it up at.
Okay.
Because again, when you're dealing with anxiety or you're dealing with depression and you're having those irrational thoughts, you're having those the negative talk about yourself or whatever the situation is, if you have those sticky pads and you're writing down those positive affirmations, like you said, Lucretia, just the gratitude and just, thank the Lord that I even woke up today. Thank God that I woke up in the right mind. Thank God that my daughter is healthy.
Yes.
And that really declutters your thought process of what you thought your life really was, because of feeling depressed, right? Or feeling anxious, or the fears of the unknown, whatever is bothering you. But when you put up those gratitudes, again, the Bible verses, whatever it is, you're visualizing it, right? You're reading it, or you can even say it out loud. And the more you do it, it's going to help eliminate those negative talks and those irrational thoughts and feelings that's allowing you to feel depressed. It's allowing you to feel anxious, because sometimes it's not reality, right? It's just how we feel. And because we're not dealing with it in a healthy manner, our life looks a certain way. And I'm not saying that life is not going to, give you headaches or stress, but again, it's so vital to still see the rainbow within the clouds.
Absolutely. And then we had somebody on our on the page talking about extending grace to yourself.
Absolutely.
And I say this with clients all the time. Like, if you have done something one way for so long and you're trying to learn, if you've dealt with depression for so long and you're trying to learn how to do coping skills, you're not going to get it like that. Like, you have to be gracious with it. You wouldn't expect your newborn baby to start crawling around. You wouldn't put them on the floor and be like, okay, go get the bottle. That's no, like, you give them grace to where they're at. And so giving grace to yourself. And when you talked about meditation, Merencia, I thought about that and saying like what you're grateful for, but also like, again, I love myself. I forgive myself. I am appreciative of my gifts, or whatever that is, but taking that time to extend that same grace that you would probably to your friend or to your partner or to your children, to yourself.
Which I think is really challenging for adults.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Adults.
It's so critical.
And I'm going to even go a little further and say adult women.
Right? I was thinking the same thing.
Adult black women. Adult black women. Adult black women.
Let's break it down. When we feel we carry so much, or so many people may depend on us, rely on us, expect us to be strong.
Yeah.
And all those things we may be. However, it's okay if we're not that. You know what I mean? Give yourself grace, permission to not be Superwoman today.
Yes.
Today.
Yes.
Not today. Yeah, no, maybe Friday, not today. Right. You know what I mean? And I just, and it's okay to say no. I have so many sister friends who, they are phenomenal women. But I can see sometimes they get a bit overwhelmed, not feeling like they can say no, or not feeling comfortable with telling people no. I don't know where I became so comfortable with saying no, but I'm okay with saying no.
It's your Erykah Badu rap on today.
It's probably the rap. It's probably the rap.
No, not today.
I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Especially if it doesn't, it's not right. It's not the right space for me. And so, to say yes and be upset with myself or others, or resentful, it's okay to say no.
And and that says a lot. And I was just speaking to a client about this just a couple of days ago, and that really, it allows you to see yourself the way that God sees you. You know what I mean? Like, when you see yourself the way that God sees you, when you love yourself the way that God loves you, your perspective is different. Because like you said, Lucretia, like, it's okay to be selfish in a healthy way. Like, it's okay to, like, you know what? I have a lot on my plate. And right now, like, I just can't do A, B, or C. Or like, you know what? My family comes first right now. I can't see you. And not feeling bad, not feeling shameful. Because I know for me personally, that's when my anxiety really acts up, when I feel overwhelmed and I'm always saying yes, or I'm pulling myself one way to another. And I have to check myself, like, okay, Merencia, I'm doing too much. Like, I just need to sit
I hear you.
still. I just need to
Mhm.
rest. Because like you said, as Black, strong women that we are, I'm so used to doing things and checking things off my checklist and being progressive and, you know, making sure that I feel good doing things. But then like my partner just said a couple of weeks ago, was like, but I love you for who you are. Like, you don't need to do extra. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's like, you know what? I'm gonna have a lazy day, and to feel it's okay to have a lazy day. Like, you
Right.
don't always have to be getting up and doing
A
things.
restful day.
Yes, there you go. Yep.
A day of rest,
Yeah.
like the Lord.
Exactly. Yes. I mean that affects your anxiety. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
feeling anxious and feeling overwhelmed, and you have to check yourself because, like you said, then you're snapping on other people, and it's like, okay, let me check myself. You know, let me make sure I'm good.
Right.
So
Mhm.
it's so important to take
Yeah.
those self-care um, tools. And another thing I was going to bring up is, you know, depending on where you're at in life, it's important to have different tools, right? Because you may be in one area of your life, like, you know, I could do meditation, but next day, you may not be feeling it. So you could go for a run. You know what I mean? So having healthy tools in your toolbox that you could choose from, depending on how you feel, is important.
Yeah.
You've got that variety of things to choose from.
Yeah. Can I circle back a little bit to for partners and co-parents of, so they can recognize within, because typically you're not going to say, well, have you been feeling like it's kind of hard to ask about
Yeah.
symptoms, and people may not always want to disclose or acknowledge. So like, if you have a partner or you're co-parenting, some signs to look for are poor communication. So either they're pulling away or they're shutting down, avoiding conversations more frequently.
Mhm.
If they're increasing their substance use. So if you notice they're drinking more or they're smoking more, drinking is a huge one. And I'm always conflicted or confused. I'm like, alcohol is a depressant and you're depressed. Like, it's not going to flip. It's not going to flip for you.
Right.
I would joke with clients like, you need to try crack, but as a joke, as if you're looking for the opposite, this is a joke. But anyway, yeah, increased substance abuse, specifically alcohol. And I know there was a lot of drinking going on when COVID first started. Like liquor stores were running out of liquor. That's so.
And why are they essential places? Where are liquor stores open?
I'm not
In
really
San
sure.
Diego, there's restaurants that I've seen that said we will deliver margarita alcohol.
So the
Yes.
restaurants, they all do that, but I'm still trying to figure out beauty shops, barbershops, restaurants, all these they close down, but the liquor stores,
yeah, because it's a coping skill. It's not healthy, but it's a coping skill.
Okay, keep going, Walanda.
So also, like, again, if you see them like being irritated over little things, road rage, or like she mentioned, like Merencia mentioned, if they're sleeping more or less, those are the signs also that are in a diagnostic manual. But also just wanting to kind of help partners, like, also be aware, like, check in with your co-parent, because you guys share that child, or you share the rearing of that child. And so if one of you guys is off, you guys need to, how do you work as a team to have the best foundation for that family?
I think it's also too, like, if you really know your spouse, I think it's vital to say,
or partner.
What, or co-parent, yeah, so I co-parent. To say, like, you know what, I think you just need to get out the house, like, have some me time.
Absolutely.
What do you need to do for yourself so that you could be the best spouse, so that you could be, the best parent that you could be, and it's healthy, you know what I mean? Or even
absolutely.
So many times we feel like we know what they need, when the most important question you can ask is, how can I support you? How can I help you? Because then they can give you, the answer of how you can really help them, instead of just assuming, and then things just get even blown out of proportion. But it's important to say, how can I help you? How may I support you? Because it feels like you've been really stressed now. And, and like we already know, ladies, like, and I tell my clients this all the time. And even earlier today, I was like, use that sandwich approach. foo him up. I love you, right? Like, you're such a good dad. I know you're really trying. Like, I know you have a lot of patience. Then you slide in like that meat and potatoes, right? But you know what? I was really thinking that what can really benefit us as a family is if you do A, B, and C. And then you end it with the sandwich of, but you know what? I really thank you for what you're doing for our family. So it's like, you use that sandwich approach with like that meat and potato don't sound so rough than just like going in full force.
Yeah, like you said, like you guys are a team. So, you guys are a team. Even if you're not together, you're a team in how you parent that child.
Yeah.
So if one part of the team is broken, or not, I don't want to say broken because I don't think that's the right word, but if one part of the team is not as strong or feeling not as strong, then you make the adjustments and you don't what's it called? Overextend yourself to balance out. Because I know moms, y'all, and I say moms, y'all, because I ain't a mama. Yeah. You guys will overextend.
I agree.
If daddy is not doing what daddy needs to do.
Yeah.
And not at the expense of not taking care of yourself.
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
So then the child loses two parents because now you can't show up because you exhausted, because you overextended for daddy. Mm-hmm. So being mindful of, even if your partner's if they're not there, or if they're depressed or they're not able to be present, overextending yourself is not going to help either. So making sure you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah, because you're just going to enable that other partner, right?
But also you're not taking care of yourself, which is, again, the child is losing two parents.
Very true.
And for our viewers or future viewers, look, we understand these are all works in progress.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? If we have like a formula or something, say do A, B, and C, and this is will be your results, we would say that. Everything we're saying, we know everybody's circumstances is different. But just sharing things just in general, things to be cognizant of.
Yeah, for sure.
That maybe even just to have begin a conversation,
Yeah.
So absolutely.
But again, though, I just really want to just share with everyone the importance of self-awareness, self-reflection, because again, at the end of the day, we really have to look and say, okay, how could I have done this day better, right? Like, not beating ourselves up, not saying, dang, like I did this wrong, but more like, okay, this is how I was. I want to better myself as a parent. I want to model to my child how to live life. I want to help them mentally and emotionally, because again, ladies, I know we'll talk about this in another episode. If you're not where you need to be as a parent mentally and emotionally, to really check in, how can you really see the signs that your child may be depressed or that your child may have anxiety? So again, if you're not really healthy mentally, emotionally as an adult, and you're not even aware of your own symptoms of how to do better and to get healthy, how can you really see the signs in your child? You know what I mean? Where like they're gonna need a parent to know what they're going through, because kids are not that great of expressing themselves sometimes, of saying, they're not gonna be like, hey dad, I feel really depressed right now. Like, some kids are bright and they're really smart and they know that of what's going on. But then, kids are going to show their depression, anxiety in different ways. And again, if you as a parent is stressed, feeling anxious, feeling depressed, unmotivated to do anything, how can you have a clear space and a healthy space to really identify what's going on in your own child to help them?
Ladies, I'm going to jump in here, and we have a question. Let me brighten this so I can actually read it. So one of our viewers is asking, is it common with, I'm going to try to reframe it. I think because how it words might be confusing in how I say it. Is it common to have baby or big kid steps of anxiety, depression, PTSD, or DSM disorders, and it seemed like you have you take 10 steps back sometimes? So is it common to make steps towards, I guess, what I'm thinking that they're saying is it common to make steps towards being healthier when you have these disorders, and then it sometimes feel like you take 10 steps back?
I would say so, just because we're human, right? Like, we're not perfect. Um, and again, just the consistency of utilizing those tools. It's the consistency of seeing your therapist. It's the consistency of taking your medication, if that's what you're using. It's the consistency to reaching out to your support group. So I feel the more that you check in, the more that you do these healthy coping skills, the more that you're doing the awareness of who you are and tapping into seeing what you need for that time or for that day, then you're going to continue to make those steps. But again, life happens, stress happens, where you may take a step back, right? And you know how we describe it as the baby. Like, when a baby first learns how to walk, it may take a couple steps and they'll fall back. But the key thing is, when you fall back, you pick yourself up again and you keep trying. You know, it's not about the fall, but it's about how you pick yourself up and continue to go. And then that's when you really give yourself grace and mercy. Like, you know what? I tried. I did slip. I did, I was impatient with my child today, but you know what, God, you know my heart, I'm trying. And you have that next hour, you have that next day to do better. So again, it's not about the fall, but it's what you do when you do get back up and continue to make the progress moving forward.
Yeah, and I agree, Merencia. Whether you are diagnosed with a disorder or not, this is called life. So
Right.
there are going to be times when we're doing well because everything seems to be going well and things are lining up. We're healthy, we got a job, our children are doing good, and life is going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just, up and down. So when you have a diagnosis, those things may just be exasperated. So what I'd say is that it's important, like what we're talking about right now, learn how to recognize in yourself when your sadness is so extenuating to where you're not able to function. You're not able to work. You're not able to take care of your children properly. You're not able to pay your bills. You're not able to meet obligations that life says that you need to meet. And that's when you recognize it in yourself. You go into your toolbox, what's worked for you in the past. And then if you don't have tools or you need to get some more tools, figure out where to go to get those tools.
Right.
And so as life presents itself again, when it's not so positive, you go back to utilizing those things that that work for you.
Right.
So it's life. It is life. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with what you ladies said 100%.
Absolutely.
So
as the time progresses, we just want to talk about resources. We have quite a few resources, and perhaps we can put them on our page so people can look into them. We have resources that we've talked about pretty much most of our episodes, and those resources are good ones. But then we also have some specific that are dealing with mental health and COVID related. And the thing is that I just want to tell people, give yourself grace too when you take the step to access resources, because before the pandemic hit, mental health resources were underfunded pretty much throughout the world. It's not a new thing. We're already underfunded. And so the World Health Organization, is called WHO, did a survey, and it was the end of last year, just tapping into different countries to see about their mental health resources. And as we suspected, they're scrambling. They're finding it difficult to meet the needs of people, especially when people are experiencing depression, anxiety, and all these other things that come from living through a pandemic. And so what I'm saying is, like, when you're calling these resources, if they give you the wrong, extension or what have you, charge it to their heads, not their hearts. Keep moving forward. Don't give up, because people are having challenges. And this is people with private insurance, as well as those who don't have private insurance. And it's been my experience that trying to find people resources for mental health, oftentimes people with private insurance have an even more challenging time. There are not as many resources available to them. You know what I mean? And so that can be frustrating, on top of everything else, but absolutely just don't give up.
Right. And then another great resource too is, for the individuals that are religious, they have Catholic charities, there's other, you know, church organizations where they will have, you know, counseling, even if it's just 4 sessions, just to get you through some things before, you know, you can get a counselor somewhere else. So I would say, you know, reach out to churches, reach out to, again, you know, YMCA, Boys and Girls Club. I know they have like family therapy with them. Again, I don't know how many sessions, but, you know, you can at least start with them until you can get something up and running. Again, and I'll put it in the feed, you know, you have Tahaji P. Henson's Foundation, where she also assists with underprivileged families that can't afford therapy. And it's, you know, based on their income.
Right.
So yeah, we'll definitely shoot some more resources, because at the end of the, and of course, schools, you know, at the end of the day, if you know that your child is, you know, having some stressors mentally and emotionally, and it's affecting even the parents, they could definitely hold a meeting. They'll have a social worker there. Then, you know, they can definitely push the envelope, because we're a professional, you know, with some services, they'll push it more than just the parent calling. So yeah, you know, utilize the school, you know, let them know, hey, I just want to be transparent with you. You know, we're going through a lot right now. We would like to have a meeting. You know, what kind of resources do you know to really help push that envelope of getting us some counseling? And then of course, you know, if you have insurance, you call the number in the back of your card, and they'll give you a referral. So I know here in San Diego, Rady Children's Hospital, they take almost every even Medi-Cal. So definitely, you know, reach out to your school.
EAP programs through your job.
Absolutely.
Most of us have heard of NAMI, NAMI. They have a, you know, really fantastic. I was checking out a resource guide, and they also have something where you can text 741-741 to NAMI, and they'll respond to you. So there are definitely resources out here. Share your resources with people. You know what I mean? If you find a particular resource that you felt helped you, you know, you and your family out, share it, you know.
You know, it's very vital, because again, you want to get the help before it hits a crisis. You know, you want to get the help before, you know, you as a parent or your child is talking about suicide, or you find a parent or a child, you know, on their last limb, and worse is worse. So definitely try to get the help when you first see the signs, before it actually hits that crisis, and that situation where now you're scrambling to try to get help, and there's a waiting list, and your whole house is on fire. So definitely, when you see those baby fires, try to, you know, utilize those resources to get those baby fires out before your whole house catches on fire.
Right.
You know, so important.
I'm just uploading or adding the resources to our page so people
That's
will
awesome.
know where to look.
That's awesome.
So for those who do not know, we have a page called Mindful Moments. So when you go there, you'll see episodes that we've already done, and you'll also see the resources that we discuss here on the show. If you have any questions about any of the shows that we've already done, or in the past shows, or, you know, this show, you definitely can reach out to us there as well.
Yeah. And again, that's via Facebook. And if you no, that's fine. If you type in Mindful Moments, as Mindful Moments mental health radio show specifically. And like Walanda said, you know, the resources and links are all there. If you have a question you want to pose, comment, we welcome them. We absolutely welcome them.
Well, thank you again for all of our viewers who are watching right now, as well as for our viewers who are going to watch a little later. So we thank you so much for just this dialogue, continuing to empower, continue to educate, because, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we do as a professional. You know, we're all not perfect. You know, we're all human beings. Our brains are so sensitive, and we really have to be delicate of how we maneuver life, and have these support systems and these dialogues to educate ourselves and our children and our children's children, about how to really have a healthy life, mentally, emotionally, and physically, because it's all interconnected. So again, we thank you for always watching our show, and we definitely look forward to our next one. And again, we're going to have multiple series on this topic, and our next one is going to be more relating to children and what are the signs and symptoms of children that have anxiety and depression, and how parents as well as additional supporters can help children that are battling with those disorders right now during COVID. And
Absolutely. Tell a friend.
yes. Have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody.